But Sita didn't come to show you who she is. She came to show you who you are.
Wow, okay. We have never seen Ram or Sita. So we can call it as lucky or from the past lives. So in your words, can you describe how they look like?
But as it evolved, and I believe it evolved through a declining era, through the Kali Yuga, Sita got transformed into the victim. My God, now it's time to throw out that narrative and see the inside, the backstory, what was really happening.
Out of millions of people, why did Sita choose you?
It's a good question. You have to ask Sita. I've got so many emails from people, particularly women, saying how it changed their whole feeling, not just about Sita, but about Ram. What we're being called to do now. And I got confirmation again and again, because Ram is my Ishtadeva. Mm-hmm. And so I got confirmation again and again from Ram about both of these books. Mm-hmm. It was like, now is the time for the story to come out. And it had to come, I think, from outside India.
Hello friends. Welcome to Open Up with Dr. Ayyappa Pindi's podcast. Today is a very special day. Today our guest, Dena Merriam, we call her with great of love and gratitude, Dena. She is with us. Before we get into the podcast, I got introduced to Dena by my Guruji, Patriji, during the lockdown time through one of the wonderful books in the earth, The Untold Story of Sita. First, when I read that book, I was like a foreigner writing something about Sita, me being an Indian. But when I started reading, we don't know how much tears came out. We don't know really the untold side of the Sita we all understood. Thousands of masters read the book. So many Zoom sessions happened just with this one book. Everybody got involved so much into the book. Hey, do you know who is Sita? We really don't know her. You know how much she's connected with the nature. You know how much we need to learn. And all these curses got totally stopped in the realm of Sita. There's so much discussions that happened during that lockdown period on this one powerful book. I'm a great fond of books. I've read around 2,000 books on spirituality. So I'm very glad that this book came into my hand during the right and the perfect timing. So I never dreamt that I will be meeting Dena ji in person to do this podcast. I'm so excited like all of you. So today we are here with Dena Merriam. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here with you.
Thank you very much. So I'm so glad today I'm being with you because of that one book on my Guruji, Patriji, The Untold Story of Sita. So before we go into this new book, can you just tell us what made you to write books?
Well, my first book was called My Journey Through Time. It was, I began having very vivid past life memories, and I wanted to understand them. So I wrote them down, and I could see, there was several lifetimes going back, and I saw an incredible pattern emerging, which gave me such an understanding of how karma works, which has always been my interest, to understand the workings of karma. I showed it to a friend who had just been diagnosed with cancer and who was facing death, and she had just started TM meditation. I said, I don't think you want to read this book, it's about past lives. She said, please let me read it. So she read it, and it helped her so much as she faced death. Mm-hmm. And so she asked me if she could share it with other people who were ill, because this is in the West where people really, death is a big issue.
Yes.
What happens after?
Right.
So then she encouraged me to publish the book, which I did. And that I never expected to write more than that one book, because I really recorded this for myself to understand my own history, the long history behind me. Then I took a trip to Ayodhya. This was, 10 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. And as soon as I stepped foot in Ayodhya, I was back in time. And it was all Sita, Sita, Sita. And it took me completely by surprise what I was experiencing. And then I took a trip to Vaishno Devi, which is a very, very powerful shrine. I only had a few minutes in front of the Devi, but that had an enormous impact on me. This was in Jammu. And after I went to Vaishno Devi, I went to the Raghunath temple there. And it was sitting before that statue of Ram that I was wound back in time and found myself in the time of Sita.
Wonderful.
And as soon as I got home, for the next many, many months, I was just living in that reality, writing what I was experiencing. Mm-hmm. So the untold story is what I was experiencing, that story. And Sita really came alive to me, and I realized I had been a devotee of Ram since I was in my 20s, when I first read the Ramayana. But Ram was not a living reality to me. Experiencing Sita's life brought her into the present, into my life now. And I experienced her as a living reality. And then since writing the book, I've written other books, because I only write about my own experiences. And as one goes through life, one has experiences. And for mine, I tell people I'm a time traveler. Uh-huh. So I travel back in time and I write what I experience, all for the purpose of understanding the workings of cause and effect, how one life feeds into the next, how things that are incomplete get complete at a future time, and how the past has shaped our present. And the teaching of that is that our present is shaping our future. So you can do that unconsciously, which is what most of us do, or you can do that more consciously. In other words, create the future that will bring you closer to your spiritual goals. So that's been the course of my writing. This book, Sita's Yoga, also came to me unexpectedly.
So how did it evolve, the first book, The Untold Story of Sita, to the Sita's Yoga?
So after writing The Untold Story of Sita, I wrote several other books. I wrote a book on Rukmini. I took a trip to Dwarka, and it was in Dwarka that I found Rukmini, and I wrote that book. And then I also wrote a book about 12th century Tibet, and found myself in Tibet. Most of my books, even The Untold Story of Sita, include at least several lives, because that's been the teaching that has come to me, to understand not just the workings of cause and effect, but to see yourself in multiple personalities and identities. Mm-hmm. So in the book that I wrote about Tibet, To Dance with Dakinis, there are 3 lifetimes. And you can see how one lifetime feeds into the next, feeds into the next. I finished that book, and I came to India. And when I came back from India last year, I didn't expect to write another book on Sita, but she came to me in a dream. And in the dream, this book was laid out. Okay. And so I was in the middle of writing another book called Memories of a Future Life, where I project myself into the future and I start writing about my future life. I stopped that book and I just absorbed myself in it was like a download, what was being. And this book is not my story. It's the story of a village woman, a very advanced spiritual soul, who lived near where Sita had gone after she returned from Ayodhya, after she had returned from Lanka, to raise her sons. And the tradition doesn't tell us much about those years, right? We don't know. But Sita, as an avatar, had a purpose in coming in taking birth on earth. And so what were the teachings that she gave? And what was the aftermath of the war in Lanka? The war in Lanka was a big deal, crucial event
Yes.
in world history. You know, there's so much written about the Mahabharata war and how that's an inner battle as well as an outer battle. Same thing is that war in Lanka. There were many, many lessons that we can take from that. And so this book is sort of like an aftermath of that. What was the work of Ram and Sita in the aftermath of that war?
So when you say you saw your multiple past lives, is it like you did some meditation before to see, or it just opened up like that?
It's like a curtain was pulled back.
Okay.
And I was saying it since a young age, it's like the curtain never quite closed for me. And so you see it actually in children that they often bring in memories from their life just previous.
Yes.
And then once they they grow, they sort of put those to sleep and get fully engrossed in the current identity. So I always had a curtain that was sort of a little bit open. And then as I got into my 20s and 30s, it began to open more. And then it fully opened, and I saw I went back seven lives initially.
Okay.
Because they were all connected. Mm-hmm. So I could see one, and then the one before that, wow, that was connected to that, and things that were started in that life found fulfillment in that life, and then going back further, things that began in that life found fulfillment. It was an amazing, like huge mosaic, all interconnected and interwoven. And I thought if only people could understand the beauty. You know, and I came to understand that karma is not reward and punishment.
Yes.
It's all about helping us awaken.
Correct.
And so if you don't learn in one life, you'll learn it in the next life or the next life. I mean, it's all about awakening. So it was just a beautiful ongoing play. So now I look at this incarnation as just a chapter. A chapter in a long, long, long story.
True. Very true, very true. It is very difficult for a normal person to remember the dreams, but your dreams are so precise that you are able to see the past lives and the connections. And the moment we wake up, remembering dreams is very difficult for anyone. So I'm just asking, wondering how you could remember so precisely all these details. And do you get that entire book chapter by chapter through the dreams, or?
It's not through dreams. Initially, at the beginning of a book, I'll have a dream that will open a portal.
Okay.
And then often at the end of the book, I have another dream, which is confirmation to me.
Oh.
But most of what comes in meditation.
Meditation, okay.
Or in a time of deep interiorization. Mm-hmm. You know, I might be walking in the park or whatever, but my mind is interiorized. And then I'm connecting to that source, and I hear and I see. I actually kind of live in that reality. I hear and I see, and I try to record as faithfully as I can. And then when I put it together, I can see the totality of it. So in this book, and in a way, very much so, Sita was giving me teachings for my own life. So each chapter is a different aspect of her teaching. So, for example, there's a teaching on the yoga of forgiveness, and I had to look at my own life and say, is there anything undone here? Anybody that I haven't forgiven? And if so, make amends. And then there's a whole chapter on the yoga of non-reaction. And at the time I was writing it, my country was in an uproar, still is, going through a lot of turmoil, and it was very hard not to react and not to get angry. And I struggled with that, and I said, well, this teaching is coming for me now.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect time to practice non-reaction. And then there's a chapter on non-judgment, and how do you do that in the face of evil. So that brought me into this whole question of how can we practice this yoga in the face of what we call evil. How do we practice non-judgment and non-reaction? And there's a lot of reflection about that. And so I feel that this book is very relevant to our time, because we are in a time of transition, turmoil, change.
So in the eyes of Sita, how do you see this yoga of awakening?
The yoga of awakening. So what one of the messages is your sadhana is composed partially of meditation and partially of how you are when you get up for meditation, how you are when you're bombarded by events in the world. How do you react? When you have disagreements in the family, when you have work challenges, when you see horrible things going on in the world, are you able to carry your meditation into that? And so a lot of this is how to be in one's daily life, how to practice this yoga in one's daily life.
So can we understand it like Sita's yoga path is more about awareness, choices, rather than some techniques?
Not about techniques. There's only one chapter on techniques, but most of the chapters are on what is a dharmic life, how to act in alignment with Dharma, and it's how to be in the world. You know, so often, you know, you have people who are long-time meditators, and then you see them out in the world, and they could be angry at something or mean to somebody, and it's like it's a disconnect. So, how do you carry your meditation into the world? And I think that's the yoga she's teaching now. And I see, you know, Sita to me is a living presence. She's not just an historical figure or some ideal sitting up in some high celestial plane. She's a living reality. And I feel that because we are in a global transition now,
yes.
that the presence of, and Ram too, there's a lot about Ram in that book. I mean, surprisingly, after Sita leaves her human form, Ram really comes in to fulfill many of her roles and to her devotees. And so there's a significant presence of Ram in the book, and how they sort of complemented each other, and how the beauty of that relationship, which is something that we all sort of aspire for.
We have never seen Ram or Sita. So you're so, we can call it as lucky or from the past lives. So in your words, can you describe how they look like?
That's very hard. Because there's no one look. Just like I don't have one look. I've had many, many faces, many, many personalities.
Right.
Sita, Narayani, who took the form of Sita, has many, many different... I mean, I do describe a little bit how this village woman, when she meets Sita, that she comes in and there's a tremendous light around her, and she's very beautiful. I did see Sita in a dream, but I can't describe her. And it's the same thing with Ram, you know. And there's no one, you know, Mahavatar Babaji, who's sort of my guru is Yogananda, but Babaji is sort of the force behind it. He also appears to people looking differently.
Yeah, true.
And so I think all the deities appear to people. You know, I could tell you an example. I'm writing a new book called Memories of a Future Life. For the first time, and I was halfway through that when I put it aside to write this book, and now I'm going back to it. In that book, for the first time in my memory, I have an encounter with Ganesh. Ganesh does not have an elephant head, not the way he appeared to me. He was the most beautiful deity. And I said to myself, how did that narrative form that he had an elephant head? Maybe he appeared to some people like that. Yeah. That's not how he appeared to me. And so, you know, I said to myself, how do I talk about this? Because his form is such a dear form to so many people. People love that form of his with the elephant head.
In these days of turmoil and difficulty in the world, a woman's role is very difficult because they have to take care of their house, the society, the work. So in this age, how this book is going to help them to balance inner as well as outer?
Well, I think changing the story of Sita is foundational. Changing the story of Sita from a victim to a force that shapes world events, who shaped the whole story of the Ramayana. I think that's foundational, because when Sita is the victim, she's vulnerable, she's weak, she needs to be protected, she needs to be saved, and that has shaped culture. And it all begins with Sita, because that's sort of the oldest story that we have, right?
Right.
That's in our memory so vividly. I mean, it's amazing that thousands and thousands of years, if Sita was in the declining Treta Yuga, that's about 6,000 BCE, or 5,000, 6,000 BCE. It's amazing that that is still such a foundational story. But as it evolved, and I believe it evolved through a declining era, through the Kali Yuga, Sita got transformed into the victim. And when I wrote the untold story of Sita, I said to myself, my God, now it's time to throw out that narrative and see the inside, the backstory, what was really happening. Because all of the narratives of Ramayana, they just talk about the outer events.
Right.
This happened, Ram and Sita were banished, they were wandered through the forest, then she was taken, and then she was saved, and then without understanding the why, what was really happening, what was Sita's consciousness like. And so we are now in an age where we can understand it in a different way. And I think because we've moved into a new era, we're no longer in the Kali Yuga, we can bring a new understanding to these stories, which will reshape the role of women in the world. If Sita is the creator of the narrative, not the victim, that reshapes women's roles.
That's wonderfully said, ma'am. So in today's world, who is really a Ravana?
That is the question that I sat with. Because what I write in the preface is Ravana is alive and well in our world today. And that negative force in Sita's time expressed itself in the personality of the Lord of Lanka. He was, in many ways, he had great intellect, a scholar, a man of tremendous power, the power to do all kinds of things, but he was also very greedy and arrogant.
Yeah.
And took for himself, selfish. He was not a giver, he was a taker. We have those people in the world today.
Yeah.
We have so much greed in the world today. When you look at the economic inequality, how people now, we've got 1 trillionaire. Oh, there are people who are going without food. So it's the force of greed that, I'm not talking about an individual really, but the force of greed that consumes people, the arrogance that consumes people, the pride, that's Ravana lurking in our world today. So the question raised is how do we counter that?
Yeah.
So Ravana is a force. And what I show in this book, the battle in Lanka did not end that matter, because Ravana was seeding the collective. And in the same way, we have people of that kind of power and quality seeding the collective. So how do you counter greed? With generosity. How do you counter pride and arrogance? With humility. So to counter those forces, and this is a big issue in the book, the relationship between the individual and the collective. We all think, well, what can we do? But every individual act contributes to the collective. Every individual thought contributes to the collective. So, we see the collective filled with shadows now, with these negative traits. But equally, there are the positive forces at work. And so what Sita is teaching us, and Ram, of course, is how to counter those negative. How do we counter greed? And then you have to look at your own life. There are obvious expressions of greed, and then there are more subtle expressions that we, so to really, self-examination is a big part of what we're being called to do if we're going to change the outer world. Because the outer world is a reflection of the inner. So the more we change the inner, the more we're going to see the outer change. So how do we counter these subtle forces within ourselves? And that's what Sita teaches.
It's all about the Sita's yoga.
That's the essence of Sita's yoga.
Perfect.
How to counter the Ravanas of today.
Okay.
She worked to counter the Ravana the Lord of Lanka, and she's advising us how to counter the Ravanas of today.
Because 6000 BC is not today. Right, perfect. That's really great. That's really great to know. How do we deal with the Ravanas outside? Because the Ravanas inside and Ravanas outside, there are two different Ravanas. So how is this Sita's yoga is going to help us to differentiate both, and how do we tackle with those things?
Well, eventually there was a battle. And that battle had to be fought. But I believe that Ram and Sita made every effort to avoid that battle, to try other means of countering Ravana. And then it came to the point that Sita had to go into the heart of the demon kingdom in order to finally release that energy, right? So I hope we can also avoid having to have a battle and keep it as an inner battle. But I think that's a question that we all have to sit with. How do we counter the forces in our society? As I say at the beginning of the book, anything that ravages earth, that's Ravana. All the despoiling of our rivers and our forests, that's Ravana. And we see it happening on such a massive scale. There's going to be karma to pay. I mean, then there's a whole thing of karma will work itself out. There will be repercussions to that, because that's the way the laws of the universe work. So what can we do in the face of that? I mean, I think I was talking to somebody the other day about just witnessing and sending out love energy to the natural forces that are experiencing destruction because of human behavior. I mean, we are not in charge of, we're not in government, so we can't make policy.
Yeah.
But we can advocate for certain things, and we can certainly, I'll tell you an experience that I had.
Please.
I was going to the UN Climate Summit, and on the way there, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was standing at my apartment in New York City, which is on a river, East River, and a whale swam up the river, stopped in front of my apartment, and looked up at me. We made eye contact. And I said to the whale, "I hear you." I woke up and I said, I think I just made a commitment to represent the whales at the UN Climate Conference. I went to the climate conference. I went to all the sessions on the seas. There was nothing about the sea life. It was all about how it impacts humans. Tourist assets and what the rising sea is going to affect the tourism and all that. And so I said to myself, I really struggled with this. I'm here to represent the whales. I made a commitment. What do I do? But ever since that time, there was nothing to be done at the UN summit. But ever since that time, I'm very connected to the whales. And all I can do is express expressions of care. And every time there's a beaching of a whale, I think it was last year or a year ago, a bunch of young whales beached themselves.
Yeah.
And so, it was, I think, in Australia, and the ones that survived were put back into the oceans. Again, they did a circle and beached themselves again. It was like a suicide, mass suicide, telling us something. They were communicating to us. And nothing's changed, right? The oceans are in terrible shape. But they are trying to communicate with us. And so again, it's this question of what can you do? Well, I'm not in a position to make policy, but I am in a position to witness and to be there, to be present with the whales mentally. So I think, and those who are spiritual practitioners, we have the ability to be mentally present.
Right.
And I think that's a very important thing now with so many species suffering, some going extinct, is to be mentally present with them. And to, we've had a lot of young people come to us and express the pain, the pain of the earth. They feel the pain of the earth.
Right.
And so I think just experiencing that and being present with it is something that we can do now.
So when you say we can only do the expression of love, How is that exactly we do it? It's just like a feeling, or is it like a practice or act?
Well, every time I can only talk about how I do it. Every time I read about a situation with the whales, which now I made that connection, so I don't have that connection with all the animals, that's my connection. I feel the pain of it, of what they're going through. And I'm very consciously trying to send my care, the fact that I care about what's happening, as a telepathic communication.
Okay.
These animals are actually sensitive sometimes to telepathy.
Yeah.
Particularly whales have a keen intelligence. And I think they can pick up on human emotions and human feelings. Mm-hmm. Maybe many more animals can. I suspect that's the case. So I think whatever it is that calls to you. I mean, for some people, it's also, for me, it's the rivers. Now, the rivers, it's a living energy. I was just up in the Himalayas where I saw the Ganga was beautiful, clean, and fresh. And it was just being in communion with that pure Ganga, mm-hmm. and feeling such pain for what happens downstream.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think it's very important to take time to sit with these beings, mm-hmm. and to connect on an inner plane. I mean, because as an Earth community, we're all experiencing what's happening collectively. We're all experiencing the degradation, the destruction of that. And it's only going to be solved together as an Earth community.
So this book, Sita's Yoga, the Yoga of Awakening, is it only for women or is it for the whole humanity?
Not at all. Not at all. And the untold story of Sita is not just for women, it's for everyone.
Okay.
And Sita's yoga is a yoga for everyone. And again, so many of the books out now are about techniques, yoga techniques.
Correct.
And this is the other half of the story. Mm-hmm. How to be in this world, how to practice your yoga moment to moment, and how it brings you closer and closer to the divine awareness.
So the moment we hear about the word yoga, most of them, they had a misconception. It is only about asanas, the practices. So how different that is with this?
Completely. I thought about the subtitle. Mm-hmm. I had thought about calling it Teachings for Daily Life. But I wanted people to think of it as a yoga, because it is a yoga. How we are in daily life, that's part of our yoga. I mean, yoga is union. How do we experience union with the divine? It's not just when we're sitting in meditation. It's how we interact with each other, Do we maintain the consciousness that we achieve in meditation? Do we maintain it when we're out in the world, when we're interacting with other people or at work? Do we maintain that consciousness? That's a yoga. All aspects of our life should be yoga. All aspects are to help bring us into union with the divine, moment to moment. And so I wanted people to think of yoga in a broader context. It's not just asana meditation practices we think of as yoga, pranayama, but I wanted to sort of expand the concept of yoga to life. Okay. It's about life.
So let me bring one example. Most of the people in the spiritual community and even outsiders, they all deal with a lot of guilt feelings every day. For one act or one word they do, throughout the life, they have the guilt feelings. And as a spiritual practitioner, I also keep telling people, do not have any guilt, face the karma. So how is Sita's yoga is going to help for people to come out of the guilt feeling in particular?
So there's a chapter on the yoga of non-judgment.
Okay.
And there's a story in there where this beautiful saintly being comes to Sita and she refuses to see him. And Soma, her attendant, says, so many reputable characters have come. You never turn anyone away. Why are you turning him away? she said, when he stops judgment, that's when I'll see him. And Suma says, but he doesn't judge anyone. And Sita says, only himself. He judges himself.
Oh.
And every time he's rejected by her, he goes back and he thinks it's because of his unworthiness. And he examines his life and he looks at all his faults and he judges himself. And he comes, I think, 3 times to see Sita, and she refuses him. And he keeps going back, tearing himself apart. Finally, he realizes he's not the mind. The mind is doing that. The mind is judging him, but he's not the mind. And as soon as he has that realization, Sita appears to him and liberates him.
Wonderful, wonderful. This is a totally different perspective. Judgment, we always look outside, not as an inner mirror. That's a beautiful say. Wow, wow.
There's more to the story, but it's a beautiful story in there. The chapter on the yoga of non-judgment.
Books are the swift shortcut to enlightenment. This is the first caption I read in the year 2004. Then I got fond of books. So when I touch a book, I always feel I'm connected with the author, or I'm connected with the deity, or connected with the divine force with the book. Every book has transformed me in particular. So what do you say, like if somebody reads the book, what kind of transformation it can bring out?
My hope with both the books is that Sita becomes a living reality. That they connect with Sita, not through me, but through the book, through Sita. And many people have told me that Sita has now come into their life. You know, as I said, I think both Ram and Sita are very present now. I end the book really totally absorbed in Ram, because more in this book, the untold story of Sita was really telling the narrative from Sita's point of view. And this book is different as it go more into the teachings. But my hope is that they can connect with something deeper. And then there's a chapter at the beginning, which is the yoga of transcending identities, where the narrator doesn't know that Sita is the Maharani. You know, she experiences her just as a rishi, a great, and then she finds out that she's the Maharani, and she's very confused. And Soma goes to her and says, we all have multiple identities. And she says, but Sita didn't come to show you who she is. She came to show you who you are.
Wow, okay.
And that's the whole essence of the book. You know, we so much focused on the outer, the deities, but the deities are in here. And the whole book is about awakening to who we are. And Soma says that again and again. Who are you? That's what you have to realize, who you are.
So if Sita has to come and speak to the entire humanity, what do you think her core message for this today's world would be?
Love.
Love.
There's a whole chapter on the yoga of love. And that's the way to counter hatred. There's so much, there is a lot of hatred in the world, you know, putting people down and all that. And if we see everything as the divine, even the most ruthless character, Ravana was part of the divine. It's all part of the divine. There's nothing that's not part of the divine, right? So when you have that awareness that it's all part of the divine, how can you hate? And so overcoming, I think it's moving toward the whole paradigm of separateness to a paradigm of unity, of seeing the unity of everything, that we're all just different pieces of the divine. The divine has cast this illusion that we're all separate, you know, but when we know ourselves to be part of the divine, then we live in a state of love. And so my next book, which is Memories of a Future Life, the subtitle is Becoming Love, because love is not an emotion. That's a different quality of love. You know, the human love, it's an emotion. But divine love is of a whole different quality. And I think, that's the ultimate message, is that the foundation of the universe is love. But to get to that state, there are many, many things that we can practice. And so I think, Sita's, all of us contribute to the collective. And the more we raise our own frequency, the more we're raising the frequency of the planet. So it's a combination. How do you raise your frequency? It's a combination of meditation, of practice, and of living the life, the Dharmic life, practicing forgiveness and generosity and non-judgment, all those things. That's how we raise the frequency, our frequency and the frequency of the planet.
So is this book available only in English or how?
Hindi. It's coming out in Hindi. It should be available very soon in Hindi.
So this is going to be a very practical guide.
A very practical guide.
So in this today's world, information is available everywhere. We call it as also information cholesterol, where we search for something and there's over bombardment of information. People read it, people see the videos. At end of the day, taking action is very, very minimum, I would say. So in this age, yoga is not just one practice. It has to be like 24/7. When you sleep, when you eat, when you talk with others, when you walk, everywhere there should be a purity, where there should be an inner connection. So hope this book is all about the yoga of awakening, of how we live, how we talk, how we eat, and how is this going to have impact on our karmic patterns.
On our battles.
Yeah.
Well, I think each one of us faces a different challenge.
Right.
And whatever your challenge is, if you can take that from the book as an aid in what is the Dharmic way to approach that challenge. That's the question. Life is full of challenges. We wouldn't grow if we didn't have challenges. It forces us to grow, and some of them we do not so well on, and then we get another challenge and maybe we do better. Yes. But if your problem is guilt, then really working on non-judgment. Non-judgment begins with the self. So whatever your main challenge is, and the West people have a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
Because the whole framework for the Western, for Christianity is you're born with guilt.
Yeah, true.
The original sin, they call it.
Yeah.
And I've had many Christians who come to me and says, it's such a burden, I can't free myself of this. It's so deep. And so I think that there are some deep cultural issues that everybody, different places face them differently, that we have to outgrow now. I mean, we're at an inflection point where evolution, we're being called to evolve if we want to survive. So evolution is really a driving force right now. And maybe that's why I feel Sita and Ram so present, Narayan and Narayani, because they're a force that guides evolution. And so what does that evolution call us to do? To really transcend some of these negative and deep imprints that we carry with us. And guilt is a big one. Guilt in all cultures, guilt is a big one. For what? I mean, we've all done... there's a story in the book of a woman who in her past life killed a child. Maybe it was accidental, but her child died. And the narrator befriends her knowing this, and it's very, very difficult. And then she discovers that this woman who has such a nasty personality has a battered woman, But she sees the pattern from the past which led to that. And so, and that woman finally overcomes and neutralizes that karma. We all carry baggage with us, yes. Karma from the past. We may not see it, but if you look closely at your issues, you can see the indications of what you're carrying. And so we all have to work to neutralize these tendencies so that we don't carry them into the future. Right. I think, it's rather than dwelling on the past, we should be dwelling on who we want to become. Who do we want to become? What do we want to become? And then looking at what we need to resolve, overcome, neutralize, So we don't carry them into the future.
Perfect.
We don't carry those patterns into the future.
Out of millions of people, why did Sita chose you?
That's a good question. You have to ask Sita.
So there should be a very strong connection in the past between you and
I
Sita.
have a very strong connection with Sita in the past. And and maybe it's an aspiration that I've carried through lifetimes. You know, through lifetimes, I've searched for the Devi, and in this lifetime, I've brought a lot to completion from the past. So now my eye is on the future. What comes next?
Wow, wonderful. So what were you in the past? Did you had any incarnations when Sita was there in the earth?
Untold story of Sita.
Yeah. Like to hear from you.
Well, I'd like to leave it up to the reader to sort of, each person will have a different takeaway.
Yeah.
Of you know, in all of my books, except this one, it comes from memory. But for some people, it will be, oh, you're just channeling. You're channeling so-and-so. And that's okay. It doesn't matter who I am. Because in all of the books, in the Untold Story of Sita, I became the narrator of that story, the servant who told the story. Whether I was actually that servant or not, I leave that up to the reader to decide. In my own mind, I have my own feeling about it. But you can see it as just channeling that being. It was a very real experience for me.
That's so beautiful. See, this is a land of Rama, where Rama is considered the highest. Any one word against Rama, it would be a chaos here, because we are all so connected to Lord Rama. But when I once saw an interview of the Ramayana, which was shot many years ago, the Sita role, the character shared, my role is very small here, because it's all of the male-dominated characters shown more in the serial, and she was feeling little like odd man out kind of stuff. So the role of Sita was very less shown in the real Ramayana, all that we know. Now, the moment I read this book, The Untold Story of Sita, the honest feeling I got is, like, how will people take this? That too in the land of Rama, very sensitive. When you released this book, when many readers have read it, how was the reaction of the people and what challenges you faced?
Well, I also didn't know how it would be received. Because it's Sita as a victim is deeply ingrained. But I've got so many emails from people, particularly women, saying how it changed their whole feeling, not just about Sita, but about Ram. And to me, you know, when I read Valmiki in my 20s, I discounted that last part of him banishing Sita. I said, that's not true. I know it's not true. And then later I heard from scholars, well, that was added much later. So I said, well, why was that added? Because society had changed, and society wanted to send a message to women.
Yeah.
You stay away from your husband, you're going to be judged. That was the message society wanted. But that was thousands of years later. The Ramayana wasn't written down until about writing didn't come until 3000 BCE. This story is thousands of years earlier. So it was passed down orally. So it was shaped according to the message society wanted to give. The sages of society wanted to give society. And as you moved into the lower yugas, it was a message about women staying under their husband's control.
Correct.
And that lasted for a long time, thousands of years, you know. It's why it's so deeply ingrained. It lasted a long time. But as I say to people, I never accepted that because to me, Ram is the essence of Dharma. And to banish a pregnant wife is adharma. How can the essence of Dharma do an adharmic act? It's complete contradiction.
Correct.
How could anybody accept that? Based on a rumor? Based on a rumor, you're going to commit. And in the story, there's somebody who's creating a lot of trouble in one of the villages in this book. Mm-hmm. It finally leads to a killing, and the man is sent Ayodhya to Ram. And all kinds of rumors, what happened to that man? Somebody says he was banished, and another says, no, Ram doesn't banish people, he heals them. And in truth, he sent this man to a hermitage to be under the guidance of a sage, and the man gets healed. The one who's such like a mini Ravana. Ram doesn't banish people.
Yeah.
And so changing our whole understanding of Ram is part of what we're being called to do now. And I got confirmation again and again, because Ram is my Ishtadeva. Mm-hmm. And so I got confirmation again and again from Ram about both of these books. Mm-hmm. It was like, now is the time for the story to come out. And it had to come, I think, from outside India, because I don't have a lot of the cultural, the Hindu deities are my deities, but I'm not brought up in this culture.
Correct.
So my idea of Sita was always very different. My idea of Ram is always very different.
All right. So what is your final message to all our viewers who are...
Invite Sita into your life.
Okay. That was so
Invite Ram into your life, because then you will be filled with love and be guided on what you need to do in the moment. And that's it's a very personal relationship. That's why you say, what does Sita look like? What does Ram look like? The way they look to me may not be how they look to you. It's a very personal relationship. And there's nothing more beautiful than having that relationship. So what I hope these books can do is that each of my readers develops their own personal relationship with Sita and with Ram. That's my message.
Thank you very much, Dena. So it was a beautiful conversation we had, and definitely the understanding of my perspective on spirituality has changed a little bit after this conversation, especially on the guilt part, where the judgment is not just outer, it is also inside. That is one new learning I got today from you. I'm so glad that you have given the good time for us to read about the Sita, about Rama, and about the Ravana. There's a very beautiful insights we got today, and hope this book will reach thousands of readers, of our viewers. And thank you very much for giving us this time, and thank you very much for bringing such a book at the right time, I would say, in the need of the humanity. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, readers. Thank you very much, viewers. Such a beautiful conversation. It's all about our Sita, our Rama. It's all about our Ramayana. So I would suggest everybody to read the first book, The Untold Story of Sita, because this is a following book. So yoga is not just about only some asanas or practices. It is all about how you eat, how you talk, how you deal with your inner world and also the outer world. What a beautiful way to understand life and how to live a dharmic life. That's all about Ramayana. It's all about Dharma. I'm so glad today, and for people who want to contact Dena ji, so there is a contact details in this video description, or also people who want to buy these books of the past books. And I heard that it is the 6th book got released, and she's already working on the 7th book. All these book links is already available in the group description. And if you have any questions further, you can put it in the comment, or you can directly contact Dena. So thank you very much for watching this episode. Please do subscribe to the channel, and please keep yourself updated. So we are going to bring in a lot of new episodes. Learn from everybody. This is the main title of this podcast. Open up with Dr. Ayyappa Pindi. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Namaste.